All right, good evening, everybody. We're going to get started. Today is a work session of the City Council in the City of Cape May. We are here in the Cape May City Hall Auditorium. It is Tuesday, October 4th, 2022. The time is now 6:02. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Under the Open Public Meetings Law, notice of this meeting was sent to the Cape May County Herald and the Press of Atlantic City, and a copy of the agenda was delivered to each member of City Council and posted on the Cape May City website and Cape May City Hall Bulletin Board. Notice is hereby provided that Cape May City Council meetings are audio recorded and video streamed live. Live video streams are posted to the Cape May City website. The City of Cape May is not responsible if audio recording or live video streaming of a meeting is unavailable. Roll call. Councilmember Baldwin?
Here.
Councilmember Meyer?
Here.
Mayor Mullock?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
Here.
Councilmember Yeager?
Here.
City Solicitor Gillen Schwartz?
Here.
City Manager Vall?
Here.
And Deputy City Clerk Dillon?
Here.
Any additions or deletions tonight, Council?
I don't think so. No.
I don't have any. All right.
Okay.
Updates from Manager and Solicitor?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor, Council, ladies and gentlemen. I'm wearing a pink tonight because October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So we have all our staff on Fridays going to have a little touch of pink in the presence of supporting that effort. So good evening again. I would give a quick update on the county road construction that's going to go on in your town over the next several months. Pittsburgh Avenue, it's out to bid right now. The bid should be received on the 12th of October. Notice to proceed should be the 25th of this month. The completion should be by April 30th of 23. Beach Avenue, which is a federal project, still awaiting federal funding. The advertising's gone out on November 23rd of 22. Phase 1 construction, March 1st, 23. That's from Pittsburgh to Madison. Complete Phase 1, May 15th of 23. Phase 2, September 5th, Madison to Broadway. Completion should be of Phase 2 would be May 14th of 2024. Lafayette Street, which is first and foremost on a lot of our minds, it's advertised to go out on December 28th of this year, the end of the year. Award January 25th of 23. Begin Phase 1 February 1st of 23. That would be Sydney to just south of Madison. Complete Phase 1 paving by June 22nd of 23. We're going to have to shut down over the summer. Begin Phase 2 September 5th, 23. That would be Madison to Jackson. Completion of Phase 2 would be May 15th of 23. Now Lafayette Street, there is extensive drainage work that needs to be completed in Phase 1. This work will also include the drop-off lane there in front of the school that the council's been promoting to get done. Locally, Pennsylvania Avenue, as people that live in that Village Green area know that construction is going on. The Bike Safety Committee has sent a report to me, my office, that they fully support the reduction of speed within the city. Other than that, Mayor, we're just busy with everyday operations, getting ready to all the departments put budgets together for next year. The beaches have closed up for the summer. We're putting all the equipment away. I want to compliment the Harry Back and all the lifeguards for the safety they provided this summer. All our beach taggers and Ed and Janet at the beach tag office. And as I put in front of council tonight, we received a report from Janet and Ed today that we're up 5.5% higher in revenue than last year. We brought in $2.8 million through September. That's it, Mayor.
That's excellent.
Mr. Vole, you mentioned the budgets. By law, we have to have it open to the public for the department heads' presentations.
Yes.
So can you just make sure we advertise that ahead of time so that we know when that's going
Okay, yes, and the council's all welcome, individual, and you sat through it last year.
Right, it's supposed to be open to the public,
Yeah,
know. That's,
sure.
That's the reason.
We'll make sure we do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything from our solicitor?
I just wanted to update council. We had a brief discussion last meeting about a minor development stormwater ordinance, similar to other towns, not just for the major, but some of the smaller projects. Been in contact with our planning board engineer to outline some of the issues and expect to have something to present to council possibly in November.
Great, okay. We're going to start off this evening with a proclamation. Tonight, I'm making a proclamation on behalf of, well, let me read it to you. Celebrating 180 years and recognizing the presence of Methodists on Cape Island since the year 1810. Whereas Methodists have had a presence on Cape Island for 180 years, meeting in private homes due to the lack of a church on the island, and whereas at a conference of the Cape May Circuit held on October 15th, 1842, a decision was made to build the Methodist Church on Cape Island. And whereas the first Methodist church was constructed in 1843 at the site of the current-day Fire Museum out on Franklin Street, which was quickly outgrown by the congregation. And whereas the Methodists purchased the structure and currently being utilized by the church on Washington Street from the Presbyterians, which was then used for the summer visitors and is still known as the Visitors Church today. And whereas in 2003, the Franklin Street United Methodist Church, an African-American based church, merged with the First United Methodist Church of Cape May, creating the United Methodist Church. And whereas during the March 28-22 meeting of the church's administrative council, it was decided that the October 15th, 1842 date should serve as the official anniversary date of the Cape May United Methodist Church. Now therefore, I, Zachary Mullock, Mayor of the City of Cape May, hereby recognize the long-standing presence of the Methodists on Cape Island and join them in celebrating 180 years of service to Cape May. Thank you very much. Pastor Young Horton, if you'd like to say a few words, please come on up.
You have to go to the...
Yeah, here.
I just arrived in Cape May last year, July. Did not know where I'm heading into, and I just love my congregation, United Methodist Church. And then I found a lot of books and pictures, and then I was digging in a little bit more. And with the help of Mr. Bob Elwell, who has a lot of knowledge about the history, and I found out that we are the oldest church congregation in Cape Island. If you get out of here, then there's a Cold Spring Church and Tabernacle Church. We cannot compete with them, but in Cape Island, and we are worshiping the oldest church building, which was built in 1844 by Cold Spring Presbyterian Church, but they sold to us 1854. So that is oldest church building. I mean, we have a lot of work to do to keep up the building, but I am so proud. So we are going to celebrate. So if you want to join us, come October 16th at 10:30 on Sunday morning. We'll have a celebration service, and then we will have a celebration luncheon together. Thank you.
Pastor, thank you very much. Deputy Mayor. Okay, next we have a update from our Public Works Department from Eric Brzezinski. Eric, thank you very much for joining us. And before you even start, I think we all agree you guys just did a wonderful job this whole season. So thank you very much.
While he's setting up, Mayor, if I may, you've heard me compliment talented people in the past that we've had in our public works. We're fortunate. We can do just about anything with the people we have down there. And you're going to see the products tonight on the screen, some of the highlights of what they produce for the people of Cape May with their own talented staff, our carpenters, our electricians, just really bright young people. We're very fortunate to have them. And you're going to see how well they've done in just a few seconds once we get this slide up and running. Eric's done a great job since we've appointed him superintendent of the Public Works, and it's all yours, Eric.
All right, thanks, Mike. Oh, sorry. Good evening. I'll just give a quick update for the end of the summer of 2022. So here we go. So introduction to what we had accomplished during the periods of March 2022 and September 22. So all this stuff was done right about 6 months during our normal recycle pickup, beach maintenance, public safety, etc. So here we go. So we took care of the bike racks, some concrete, a fixing station in junction with the bike committee. We started the line striping around town. We are currently finished Zone 3, hopefully starting Zone 4 next week, depending on weather. And then we'll get to the bike sharrows and all that jazz.
You weren't out there today?
We weren't out there today. So moving forward, Lafayette Street basketball court. This was a sight for sore eyes. So we did this in-house in like a 3-day turnaround, got rid of all the grass, resurfaced the court, and it looks like I want to play there. So, matter of fact, I did play. So, I'll see everybody on October 15th for the basketball tournament.
Oh, there you go. Good.
So, again, working with the garden club in front of Convention Hall, getting rid of some of the overgrowth, trying to make it more compact. Moving forward, this is a big project that turned out wonderful. I'd like to thank John Hassett from Cape Island Woodwork for donating the sign for the bathroom. So moving forward, the carpenters at the department redid the Police Emergency Operations Center on request of Chief. Thanks, Chief. We also made like a new welcome center here in the front lobby here. We renovate the second floor restroom that was kind of dingy. Best thing from the summer. Sorry for the effects. The custom-built shower and foot wash station down at the Cove. Moving forward, the total rehab of the Nature Center.
And that, I have to say, looks beautiful in there. For anyone who hasn't been able to see that yet, it really does look great.
What a difference.
And it needed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I think the floors were just plywood.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were. Another cool project we did the week of 4th of July. Sorry for bad timing. We had the crews out at 3 o'clock in the morning doing this, so it didn't affect anybody. The power plant was open back up by 8 a.m. that day. So, little note that the cool seal, I shot it with a heat gun, was 15 degrees difference from the blacktop, and only 11-degree difference from the beach sand during 4th of July week. So moving forward, another accomplishment we had was installing the ADA beach mats on all the beach entrances in Cape May.
got a lot of compliments on that, as well as a lot of asking for more, so.
Yeah.
Get your budget ready.
Yeah, yeah. So the old convention hall is kind of like a ongoing project with water coming from underneath. So here we stripped out all the damaged laminate flooring and created a new floor for it to match. So it looks good. Casey was happy. Our recycle lot area was getting a little dingy. This is where we store all the recycle carts for the Washington Street Mall, so we're not carrying bags around the mall, dragging trash juice and stuff. So that was like long overdue. Our pump station down at Benton Avenue was a complete rust bucket. The guys took 2 weeks out of the time, and they grinded the whole building down and repainted it. So that's a huge saving for us than having to replace the building. Some uncovered projects we're starting this fall. The showers on the right, we'll be hopefully have showers on every entrance of the beach starting next spring. You'll see a resolution later on tonight for approval. We'll be starting, material just got delivered today, I was told, for the beachfront restrooms. So as soon as this weather breaks, we'll be starting that, followed by the Cove Pavilion. So touch on these ones. This is Patterson Avenue and Mount Vernon. These ramps need serious replacement. They're rotten. The screws are rotten out. So this is going to be like a winter/early spring project that we're going to look to do to resurface them with some Trex decking and some vinyl railing and all that jazz to get them up to speed. Here's the showers for all the beaches again. The comfort stations will be starting, like again, at the end of this week, hopefully, if not next. And that's going to be refurbishing all the inside and outside of the restrooms. The Cove Pavilion will be at the restrooms. We're going to pretty much strip this to the studs and rebuild it. And key takeaways was projects were all done in-house by the staff under contract quotes, actively working on changing the culture for a positive in all divisions. Anytime, feel free to contact me at the office. That's all I got. Any questions or concerns?
Awesome. You guys did a lot of great work, and I know the bathrooms, you initially received some quotes to just replace them with new trailers, but they were so high, and then you thought your staff could order the
100%.
materials and get it done, and I think you made the right call there, so
Yes.
it's very, but it's great. I mean, if you've been in those bathrooms over this summer, they need a definite
They take a beating.
overhaul.
It's,
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
so.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think, the definitely came way under quote for doing it in-house versus doing it outsourced.
Okay.
So-
I know there was a question on the recycling containers, because just for the public's benefit, we have passed the first reading of the ordinance for recycling containers. And I know there was a couple questions on council before we had second reading.
Yeah.
No problem.
Council, do you want to?
Yeah.
Or any other
yeah.
questions, obviously.
It had to do with, the biggest workman's comp injury comes from trash collection and things like that. So
Yes.
I was a little concerned when we're going from 35 pounds for weight to 100 pounds for weight for injuries with the workers. So,
So,
I know we've had injuries in the past, and it was only at 35, we had workman's comp injuries at
Yes.
35 pounds.
so knock on wood, since I took over in December, we had not have any workman's comp injuries on the recycle truck or trash trucks. For that reason is because we have the tipper on there. The issue we're having right now is,
Eric, could you describe the tipper?
so the tipper is a universal tipper that's on the back of the truck. So whether your can's 96 gallons, 32 gallons, 20 gallons, circle, rectangle, square, it's a grabber that comes out, grabs it from the side and dumps it. So with that being said, I think it's in the city's best interest to open this ordinance, because it will stop the calls coming into the DPW saying my recycle can wasn't picked up, to go out and find out It's a 96-gallon can. How do I force the employee to pick up a 96-gallon can when the ordinance says 32 gallons?
And Eric, just to follow up on the concern regarding workers' comp injuries, DPW actually was instrumental in recommending the safety
Yes.
manual, and as part of that safety manual, isn't part of one of the things that council approved, I think, the last meeting, actually.
Yeah, the meeting before that.
Use lifting equipment. So if
Yes.
there's an option to use the tipper, that's in the manual to use that device.
That gives me an enforcement now to the employee. If he doesn't pick up the 96-gallon can, well, why aren't you picking it up? Well, you have the tipper on the truck to pick it up. No one's allowed to pick up. And my SOP that I'm going to put together for the recycle on top of the safety manual is no one is to pick up a 50-gallon can or higher
SO, standard operation.
as a standard operation.
Right.
You must use the tipper. If you get caught, then it'll be a discipline action, which my guys ain't going to
Right.
fight on.
Do you think that 50 gallons is still a little too high? That, I'm just putting it out there, only for safety reasons. You know what I'm saying? Because I think 50 pounds with one person, two people, or depends on how they.
So 50 pounds, I mean, is the ordinance now
It's 35.
35
So,
gallons?
actually, just to be clear, it says 32 the current language is 32 gallons and 50 pounds in weight. So 32 pounds, or I'm sorry, 32 gallons, 50 pounds. The proposed change is
To the
96 gallons, 100 pounds.
Okay.
And anything over the 50 pounds is, again, will be tipped by the machine,
Okay.
not by the employee.
And it has to through your.
Through the SOP, yes.
Okay. So technically, right now, the maximum is 50 pounds.
Yes.
It would basically still be 50 pounds, because otherwise you got to use the tipper.
Correct.
Okay. Everyone understand that at least? Okay.
Is there any detriment to, I mean, I know that you put this forward for us to approve. Do you see any detriment to it? I mean, I see it possibly being a time savings as well.
I mean, whether you pick it up by hand or pick it up with the machine, it's pretty much the same time, by time picking the cans up, versus picking them up manually or tipping them up with the machine. It's the same amount of time as if I ask somebody to help pick a heavier can up. So, because we usually have two guys on each side, one guy on one side, one guy on the other side, going down the street, and they're just throwing the can into the thing and tipping them.
Is there a tipper on both sides?
The one truck has two tippers on it, the other one has one tipper, because it has a winch on it for dumpsters.
Okay.
So, and that's all.
Mayor? I'm glad that you mentioned that, Mayor, about the cost of redoing the bathrooms. I was lucky to get to meet with you, Eric, on Thursday, and I thought, the process you took, deciding whether you're going to replace these bathrooms or refab them, I think you really saved the city a lot of money, and it's probably going to come out better than we would otherwise just replacing these restrooms. One of the things I would ask, as part of the restrooms use, especially on the promenade closer to the cove, one of the biggest concerns I get from our walkers, people that drive into town just to walk, that there isn't a restroom in that part of the town that's open more year-round, or at least closer to the, later part of spring and later part of fall. People want to be able to walk, and unfortunately, they're going to have to run to find the next restroom if they're down there. But and the other thing I want to mention was that you're now the head of OEM, and I just want to mention to everybody that you've been working really hard, really fast, getting all your classes in. I appreciate all the work you're doing.
Thank you.
There.
Thank you.
Is that an option I mean, maybe better insulation as you're doing it, just to make sure?
I mean, we can look
it's
into
a
it
little
since
more
we're
freeze-proof?
rehabbing them,
Okay.
definite.
That's good. Yeah.
I mean, might have to maybe do a small HVAC system in them for heat.
Okay.
They don't have heat in them right now.
Yeah, that's,
Right.
But, I mean, a little ductless unit would
Right.
probably be more than enough.
But even in the meantime, doing a little extra insulation on the walls or around the pipes or whatever.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay. Any other questions, council?
I have one quick question. Right around Gurney and Columbia, they had an issue with rainwater not going down the drains, and they had to blow out the pipes for the drains, so it would drain out to the beach. Is that something you guys do on a regular basis? Is there a system that you keep up with that so that
So that,
when
I
we start
I
having these
believe,
northeasters come in, that water isn't, is draining properly and they're not backing up?
so
and
that comes, I believe, comes from the Benton Avenue pump station that the guys just refurbished. That's on an automatic system where if it reaches a certain amount of level of inches of water, it turns on by itself. And if it doesn't come on, it shoots an alarm call out to myself. And then if I don't answer the alarm, it goes to Rusty and right down the chain.
Yeah, because I know we also had a pipe break on Queen Street that had to do with that pumping station, I think.
And that was repaired.
Right. But, pressure building up, I don't know if it's because the sand, in front of the pipe. I just want to make sure that we're having a regular schedule, that we're clearing out these pipes, so when we do have these northeasters, that we,
So those pipes are ran daily, all through the summer. They actually turn on, I have the sweeper operator that runs the sweeper, goes over there at like 6:30 in the morning, pumps them on before the people get on the beach, because it all discharges on the beach. So we don't want to put it out there when somebody's out there swimming in water.
is there more than one, I'm going to say turnout pipe on the beach? Or is it just,
There's 3 pipes
There's 3
at Queen.
there's 3 pipes at Queen. Is there any other ones down the other way? Because I thought Gurney's went out right by Gurney Street.
So there's Ocean. Ocean doesn't have a pump on it, though.
Okay, but that's still cleaned out on a regular basis?
Yep.
though? Okay, that's all I wanted to make sure. Because I know as soon as they cleaned out the pipe, it was like perfect.
Yeah.
It drained and people didn't have that almost a foot of water water in front of their house.
I have one more thing, if I may. I'll be remiss if I didn't mention it. The Shade Tree Commission has a program. It's a 50/50 sidewalk program. Say if your it's the homeowner's responsibility to maintain the sidewalks in front of their house, but some of the street trees will push up the sidewalk. So what happens, we have a 50/50 program. A lot of people don't know about this, but if this is the case in your front yard, if you get 2 quotes for a mason to come out and do it, the city will split the cost with you 50/50, as long as you get the 2 quotes. But, it is a major expense. We often don't have enough money in the budget to pay for that. And originally, that program was started through a grant, which we don't get as much money from anymore. I was thinking, if you go around town, you see at the Victorian Towers or the Housing Authority, if you look at their sidewalks, even if it's a fraction of an inch, a lip of difference between the 2 different sidewalk pads or squares, whatever you want to call them, that they've ground them down. They had some kind of machine and ground them. You can see where it's nice and smooth, instead of paying for the full expense of redoing that sidewalk. And it's expensive for the homeowner, it's expensive for the taxpayers. I was wondering if there's be an opportunity for you to look into possibly getting some kind of equipment to grind down these sidewalks if the homeowner wants to kind of sharing the expense by paying a fee to the city to do it for them. I just think we could save a lot of money and also promote better safety at a cheaper expense.
I can definitely look into that. I'm sure they make something.
Cool. Yeah.
Great. Anything else, council? Eric, great job. We really
Right.
appreciate it, and thank you for the
Got
update.
it. No problem.
Thanks.
All right, next on the agenda, we have an advisory committee update from the Municipal Taxation and Revenue Advisory Committee. See Dennis is with us, so hello, Dennis. Hello.
You met my assistant?
Yes.
Before we start, let me just say that
Want to get that?
a nice feature, and I'm very jealous of it, that little screen thing where the curtain goes back. That's going to be in some of our following. I like that. I like that effect.
All right, so you're good, you can just arrow over, okay?
Yep, thank you. Last month, you heard a report from Neil about revenue and how successful 3 of the recommendations from Amtrak were last year: the occupancy tax, the residential rental fees, and also the effort to move city expenses into the utilities budgets as a revenue source. And as I heard tonight, the revenue beach fees are up, and we're doing a lot of stuff on the beach. So we would hope going forward in this coming budget that those costs get get taken over and put into that utility to us as much as possible. So let's keep that recommendation working strongly. I wanted to talk tonight a little bit about
Dennis, can I add to that, actually? Coming out of COVID, 2 of our utilities were in the red.
Right.
And both of them now are operating at least flat. So we've added expenses to those utilities under your recommendation, but still have had, met all of our expenses. So it really has worked out.
Yeah, that's great, and that's a long-term thing that happens better and better every year. You don't need to do it immediately in the first year, but it's a good thing to do. Also, Neil mentioned that the occupancy tax revenue last month was exceeding expectations. Our expectation was a little bit higher than that even, and our numbers project for the year that you're going to put $1.8 million in your pocket by the end of this year, because we're anticipating a strong shoulder season in the fall. So that actually worked out pretty well for you. The thing I wanted to talk to you tonight was the short-term rental issue, which is really one of the most important things you've done to your fee ordinances in the last 25 years. And that ordinance, basically, I wanted to just bring 3 issues to your attention tonight. I'm not going to be long. Aaron told me not to be, so I'm not going to be. The 3 issues I wanted to bring to your attention were the three sort of policy levels that are contained in that ordinance. And we talked for such a long time about this ordinance, and I'm not going to do any more talking like that now. But the first of these policy elements is that you shifted the fees from based on the size of the unit away from the type of the unit. And the second thing you did was require an annual analysis of how well the statute's working. And thirdly, it requires you to define the market inventory for what is being rented as a residential property. The first of these issues is some numbers from previous licensing requirements. And this was what happened for the last 3 years. This was the old way we did it. We did it by the type of property. And I still can't understand why, even though we have 4 types of properties, they all have the same fee, but we won't go into that. In 2019, that was pre-COVID, 513 residential rental mercantile licenses. COVID hit, 464, a drop. Revenue, 38,000 down to 34,000. Then in 2021, it was a 100% increase, 99.1% increase in the rental licensing, which generated an income of $69,000. Now that's separate and apart from all the other fees, the fire fees and the inspection fees and the tourism fees. But as you increase the number of licenses, those fees go up too, because there's more licenses that you're using to calculate those extra fees. So those other fee accounts, and this is what Neil was talking about, I think, when he talked about the increase in mercantile license fees. Those other fees did increase themselves because of this, but the big increase came because we changed the fees from that size, and let's take a look at what that means. We went from, we have 6 categories of a license ranging from $100 to $500 based on the size of the accommodation. And looking at the numbers we got from your clerk's office recently, this is what happened in 2022. Oops, I missed one sheet. What happened to that? No, there are about 3 or 4 slides that are missing. Let me see. I have it here in this guy. Let me see if I can get it working this way.
Dennis, are you looking for the revenue by each category?
Yeah.
That's a couple slides ahead. It's slide 7.
Oh, here it is here. Okay. All right. Well, I wanted to actually go, oh, let me see. Yeah, okay. All right. All right. There it is. This year, notice that we issued 1,040 residential rental licenses. And we broke those numbers down by looking, and by the way, Erin and her staff did a fabulous job getting this thing up and running, because the new system they're using is a sortable database, which is extremely easy to use compared to the other one, which was a manual one. And so you can easily massage those numbers on that database to come up with whatever analysis you're looking for. And this is one of the analysis we found. For each of the categories of license, that's the number of licenses we issued. And and then we multiplied that by the fees, and the revenue numbers come out on the right-hand side. So you can see that when we went to this new system, our revenue was up to $148,000. Which, if you look back, I hope this is the next slide we can have, that's the difference. So that's a significant improvement, and it speaks, quite frankly, to the willingness of the community to cooperate with this statute. They really did a nice job of coming up. I'm sure they didn't like it because the number isn't dollars, but there was a significant improvement in the compliance with this statute, and that's good. Now, the question is this thing successful? Well, I think it's too early to tell, because our first year looks very good, but we need to take another look at the market inventory that's available to us. Because, as the statute says, if anybody takes an action by an owner to advertise, solicit, or contract to market that unit, then that is a residential rental subject to registration license. Now, there's three sources for this: the local rental agencies, the transient marketplace, and other private options. To get a preliminary sense of how this worked this year, we looked at the local rental housing stock from the Census Bureau. This just came out a little while ago. This is the 2020 data from Cape May. And it basically follows a sort of a downward trend over the last 20 years. But to summarize, there's, of all the residential units listed in the Census Bureau in Cape May, 21% of them are, the owner is living in the building. It's an owner-occupied unit. 500 of them, or 12%, that's a rental unit, full-time permanent rental lease arrangement. The rest of them, the Census Bureau calls vacant, which means that nobody registered as a resident of that property, and therefore it sits without a census number. That's the residential inventory that we're looking at. Now, do we think that all of those 2,700 houses are rented? Absolutely not. But we don't know how many are. And we do know that 1,000 people took out a license. So we're really looking at the universe of rental inventory as being something like this. We've got 38% of those units with a license. We've got the rest of them, 62%, without a license. Now, what we did to get a sense of what that means on the ground, we went to the websites of 5 local real estate agents and pulled out every property that was listed or advertised in those that listed at 5 bedrooms or more. And then we also listed them by sleeping capacity. And then we cross-referenced the licenses issued with those properties. And here's what we found. There were 100, and we're just looking at the big units at this point because this is a preliminary analysis. We're just looking at the big sleeps 5 or more units. There were 155 of them listed as advertised in Cape May, 5 or more bedrooms. They advertised sleeping capacities of plus 20. There were 27 properties. 49 properties said that they could sleep 15 to 19. 10 to 14, 79 properties. Then we cross-referenced that with the licenses issued, and this is what we found, that of that number of 155, there were 86 mercantile licenses issued to 86 of those 155 properties. And there were no licenses issued to 65 of them. So this gives us an indication of how well we're going to be doing next year as we implement some increased compliance measures to make sure that everyone is on board in an equitable sense, because, as I mentioned before, people are complying with this law. Some people aren't. And it's not fair to the people who are complying with the act that somebody's not complying with the act. So what we're looking at, and we looked at these things that were some anomalies that we found in this data comparison. There were 24 licenses issued, and there was no square footage reported on the application. 3 of these units, as you can see, they got a license for less than 1,000 square feet, and they advertised that they were sleeping 14 people. And it depends on what 14. I may like that idea, but I have to pick the other 13, if you don't mind. The national standards for occupancy say that a 1,000 square foot space should sleep no more than 5 people. There were 7 units that said they got a 2,000 square foot license, and they advertised that they were sleeping 10 to 23 people. And there were 10 units for 3,000 square foot license that said they were sleeping 17 to 22 people. And the standard for that's 15. So what do we know? Well, here's what we know. There was a 12.7% increase in our licensings, which is good. There was a 114% increase in our revenue, which is good. And the city has made a significant improvement in the licensing and record keeping, which is true. And from 2019, because we had that chart from our previous presentations, we used it. And we've increased this revenue, and I'll take some credit for MTRAC for this. We've increased this revenue since 2019 by 262%.
Wow.
And that's only because we're actually asking people to do what they're supposed to do.
But you know what, Dennis, I mean, the revenue's increasing, but I think the most important thing is safety.
Sure.
Getting compliance with fire inspection.
Absolutely, because as I
And
mentioned
that's the most
before,
important.
every time a new license gets issued, they get all the other inspections as well, which they may or may not have ever gotten because they were listing it privately. Compliance is improving now.
And you know, Dennis, it's a huge issue of fairness, too.
Absolutely.
There's certainly a big complaint of people who are
Absolutely.
abiding by law.
There's no-
Know that there's very many people that are not, and it's
There's no
unfair.
question about it. As I mentioned before, that the equity issue is, as you know, we used to harp on equity quite a bit. If some people do it, then everybody should do it. And if everybody's not doing it, then those people should be told what to do. And it's just it's a question of equity, and it's not that simple. I mean, it's not that difficult. Now, what do we don't know about this? Well, we don't know how many licensed rental units are listed and rented in the transient marketplace. And we talked about, you guys talked about that last week, because we're having a difficult time getting that kind of detailed data out of the Airbnbs. We know how much they're collecting, and we know how much they're sending us, but they're not, I think, if I stand corrected on this, but they're not willing to tell us exactly what revenue came from what property. They're looking at grossed out numbers, not.
You know what I'm wondering right now as you're talking about this? That's coming from the state.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if we go directly to VRBO and Airbnb, can we
Yeah, we could do
gain
that,
that
yeah.
information
Absolutely,
directly
we could do
from
that.
them?
And the other thing,
Instead of pulling that from the state?
in terms of record keeping and improvement, we need to give a nod to the Airbnb company, Airbnb and VRBO, who have been very helpful to us in implementing this statute. It's to their advantage to do that properly. So, yeah, that's a good thing to do. We could reach out to the state for that.
Dennis, I also want to point out with the MTRAC is revenue is increased, safety compliance, but there's also another item that we also had talked about, which was that we're standardizing people when they come to rent a place, that they know what they're getting. They're not getting a bedroom in a hallway. They're not getting a bedroom in an attic without proper safety measures, and that's very important when people go to rent a place. They can be,
That's for the benefit of the consumer. Yeah, and there's no question about it. And the more people who come to Cape May to visit and stay, they need that level of protection. It's our responsibility to give it to them. Yeah.
right? Like, we don't really want to see 17 people in 1,000 square feet.
It could be an interesting weekend party.
Not when the person
not
thought they were
next to
probably
me.
getting 10,000 square feet.
Now, we also don't know how many unlicensed rental units are available for rent or lease from any other source. See, here's the point, really. We've gotten through 1 year. It was a scramble. Everybody did a great job. It's up and running. Now's the time to start fine tuning it to make sure that these little holes. Because if you remember, I said we only pulled from 5 real estate agents listings, and we only pulled the houses that slept more, how much they slept and had 5 bedrooms. Let's run back and see that there's not many licenses that got issued to that. Far back do I have to go here? There it is, right there. No, that's not it. This next one is. See, there were only 10 licenses issued in the 5,000 square foot category. That's the universe that we've captured this year. The revenue was $5,000 from those 10 units. Just this preliminary data we put together shows very clearly that that's not the universe of big house rentals. It's significantly more, because there are big house rentals being put on Airbnb and VRBO, and they're being advertised but not getting a license. So there's a big universe out there, and if you go back to this pie chart, where is that pie chart? You go back to that pie chart we had that showed that we're only capturing, what was it, 35% of the properties? Was it 35%? So, I mean, like we always say, that's 60-something percent is not the rental market, but the unidentified rental market is in that 60%. Right. And the city's job is to go and find out. We know who's complying because we have their license. We need to go now into that bigger number and find out who's not complying. Or go back to the other 35% and tell them, we messed up, you don't have to do anything. That's, it's not right. It's not fair. So that's where we are. And so this annual review, which is required by the ordinance, is going to be rolled up into the budget process, and we hope it is, and will be available to help Neil and the staff review this. But here are the important things we need to look forward into year 2 of this statute. And these 4 things are really critical, because we've got to dig down into that 62% and verify the market inventory. We've got to make sure that our inspection and monitoring program is up to speed. It's actually capturing everybody who's got a license, or everybody who's renting their property. And by the way, I don't think we had an opportunity this year to do the decals, did we? We didn't do decals.
Everybody does get a sticker. Each rental
That
unit
decal?
gets a sticker.
Okay, good. Well, that's
Yeah.
a big help.
Yeah.
And then enforcement penalties. When we find people who are not complying, we'll use the Deacon Fascio approach by asking them nicely, and then we'll say, well, you didn't do it because we asked you nicely. Then we'll have to write you up on that. So, anyway, that's where we are.
Hey,
And-
Dennis, should we update our code to include what the national recommendations for occupancy to square footage?
Well, we do have that. It's already in our
That's what I
code.
thought we
It's
did.
adopted by reference, so we don't
Sure.
have to do that. It wouldn't hurt, belt and suspenders, it wouldn't hurt to put that in the code.
Right.
So, I mean, you could do that, too. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
great. Any other questions? Dennis, as always, the information is so invaluable, so we really appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
great.
right, good.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. On to discussion items, and this evening we have on here for discussion is the Lafayette Street paving.
Right. I actually had this put on the agenda because I think it's important that we bring this up again, because we received that email, and at the end of last year, and at the end of the school year, it was probably, I think, in May or June, we were looking at this because it was supposed to have been done this past year, that bump out or the bump in front of the school and paving. And now it looks to be, again, we're going to be almost a whole year out before it gets done. And I think this is a safety concern. And I thought we had gotten buy-in from the county that they were going to address this. And it was going to be the first thing done was this bump in. Because that way the kids are they're being let off a couple feet off of Lafayette Street so that when somebody opens their car door on Lafayette Street, they're not taking the door off or kids accidentally get out on the wrong side of the car.
Can I just fill in one blank for everybody, just so we know what we're talking about? Basically, we're talking Lafayette Street from, say, Colliers to Madison Avenue traffic light. And then from Madison Avenue traffic light to the end of Lafayette Street, basically, actually right over the little bridge that you come in on. So the little second bridge that you come in over is the beginning of Lafayette Street. So those would be the two phases, whether it's phase 1 or phase 2, and that's kind of what you're bringing up is we would rather see, and I think we're all in agreement that we'd rather see phase 1, the first one, be from Colliers to Madison, so that some of those safety features are included in it. I mean, that's
Right, but that's what I thought we did with that resolution, or
That's
we
what
sent a letter to the county asking for this. And I thought they responded with, yes, we'll do that first. Actually, I thought they were willing to at least address the area right in front of the school and do that one as maybe its own phase altogether. Because what I'm seeing with the plan is they're going to be doing it when the kids are in school again. So they're not doing it when the kids are out of school because it's summertime, and it's also hard for us. But there should be a way to work with it in those first months of maybe winter break or June that we can do that.
Well, you all saw the email, so I think, are we all in agreement that we'd rather see that be phase 1? And by that, I mean
Madison.
Colliers to Madison.
We all agree with that.
Yeah.
I think,
So we'll respond in that way. We'll see what they say. Hopefully, they're in agreement, but
Yeah.
I think it makes sense to all of us, of course, that be the first phase.
Yeah, but, and the deputy mayor is correct. They promised actually that this work would be beginning this fall.
Yeah.
And I know that there were issues with them getting materials, which was the drainage pipes and the like. Now we are looking, this is not happening until next June that it'll be completed.
No, not started till next June.
Well, they're saying here that the drainage work that needs to be completed in phase 1, which includes the drop-off lane, the drainage work progress in April and May, leaving early June for final paving. That's next year. So, yeah, they'll do that next, but they're also proposing paving the whole thing into June of next year. So
Right, and I
we're
thought
we're going to do 2 phases.
we're not getting what they promised us.
Right, because I even thought we had asked for them to do Lafayette before
We did.
Pittsburgh, because Lafayette is the road that you come into Cape May, it's the first thing people see. It's in horrible shape with potholes and everything, and it's also a safety concern with the school.
Well, Pittsburgh's an issue because they have state funds, I believe. It was either state or federal funds they were given, and they've got a timeline. That's the only reason Pittsburgh's being done when it's being done, which is why they had to put off Lafayette. But still, my understanding was that we were supposed to have this section in Madison up to Lafayette, the drain work done, and that bump in done this. It should have been done
Fall.
this year.
Right, right.
Should have been
They
done this
told
year.
us this 2 years ago, that it was supposed to be done 2 years ago, or whatever it was. And then we said, okay, then just so you make it a priority. Because from what I understand in that email, they were going to do the phase 1 in June, but not pave it till next year at this time. So it's going to be, again, a whole year.
So that leaves us with,
Well, I think it leaves us, they asked the question of how we feel, and I think it's pretty clear that we all want phase 1 to be
we had, yes.
Colliers to Madison. So we'll reiterate that as much as we possibly can and try to push it.
And because it's a safety issue with the
100%,
students. I mean, that's
yeah.
what we keep saying, is safety issue. And they said, okay, we didn't realize it was a safety issue. Well, we
Yeah.
have to keep reminding them that there's a reason for it to be that done first.
Absolutely.
I'd like to add, if I may, and, you know, getting them to try to do it as soon as possible. It'd be nice if they didn't do it around, you know, the full-blown school year. I just can't imagine the logistics nightmare that would be if we had a say. And the other thing, you know, I'm all for the bump out as well. It was about a month ago, I was walking around the front grounds of the elementary school, and we have an amazing, you know, collection of trees in that school. I just want to make sure if we would have pushed the road in about 10 feet or so, and also move the sidewalk in as well, we don't damage some of those trees, which are only about 10 feet or less from that sidewalk. Just something to keep in mind for, you know, future thought.
Okay. Any other questions on that one?
I just want to say if we can, I guess, put this, what, are we going to send a letter to them? Should we make a resolution? What do we have to do to make it
done one.
strong?
Have one on the,
We've done a resolution, I
know,
think.
But what do we have to do to make it
Reaffirm
strong?
it?
Because obviously the resolution didn't work.
well, can we reaffirm it and have the manager contact Bob Church?
Council, back,
Bob.
I think in February, because
Yeah.
that's the draft date I have in my computer, that was the resolution asking them to prioritize Lafayette Street.
Yes.
We didn't specify Phase 1 or Phase 2 in that road, but I think it's well within the authority council previously gave to say, hey, by the way, we meant what we said in February of 2022, we want this done. So I think it's, if council could verbally, you know, give direction to the manager's office to follow up on that.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're doing.
And
Yeah,
I guess-
I'll give Bob Church a call tomorrow, let him know what we talked about tonight. And as you all know, he's been bent over backwards to try to accommodate us and doing a lot for the city of Cape May, where a lot of other towns aren't getting the attention that we're getting. We like it. So I'll reiterate to him how important it is, what you want.
And you know, Mike, I have to disagree with you that the county's given us anything. Every other town, all of them have beautiful streets going into town, and we haven't gotten anything.
Yep.
So I don't think they're prioritizing us at all. So I think this is something that we have to stand strong on, at least with this, because we keep, you know, caving to them that the,
You're absolutely right, Deputy Mayor. Yeah.
I don't know what we can
Wildwood,
do.
the entrance into Wildwood, the entrance into Stone Harbor, I mean, all of them have been upgraded, and
And to
we've
go
been
along,
ignored. Go ahead.
to go along with the comments, you know, I meant to mention earlier, this has been pushed back more than twice.
yeah.
I feel like it goes back so many years. And if you can, manager, get us an update. That way, if city council feels that we need to have a resolution by next meeting, we can do that.
I'm just curious, didn't you say Lafayette Street bidding was due January 25th? That's what I put as my note when you spoke. I just want to make sure that's right.
December 28th,
It'll be awarded on the 25th.
Well,
25th of January.
It should begin February 1st.
but I think when we talked about this last February, they're supposed to have the bids out they're supposed to be back, I think, before summer started. They're supposed to be going out.
All I'm saying is we're being told by the county that January 25th, they have to have bids back in.
Right, but they also told us that they were going to have bids back in, I think, before the spring, for it to start in the fall. Remember, they were supposed to start in the fall?
The spring was, yeah,
what I'm
the
saying?
spring was like the third thing we were told, but I
Right,
know,
yeah.
I know.
So-
I
so
will
for-
say.
So for saying that they're saying January, I don't know if we
Right.
can take their word for this at this point.
I agree with you there. All I'm saying is we're getting specific dates finally, which,
No, we had dates before with them. They told us that it was going to start in the fall. This year, it was supposed to be starting, again, it was supposed to be starting. And they were supposed to have bids back, in like, I think June or July, they were supposed to have the bids back to start in the fall. And they were going to start right on the Lafayette part because they understood that was the concern. And just do that
I agree with you.
block.
Okay, any other comments
I just want to make sure we have an update by next week, if not before then.
Yeah,
for the next meeting? Yeah,
managers, yeah.
okay. All right, city clerk?
Yes, council, we have an ordinance for introduction. It's 482-2022, an ordinance amending Chapter 390 of the City Code regarding property maintenance to include regulation of invasive species.
Do I have a motion?
Make the motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments on this?
I just make one quick comment. I see they added a list. And I think the list is great. I think that the species that they have on there are easily the invasive ones, that I don't think anybody's going to put up a fight that they want a certain plant in their yard on one of these plants that are listed.
As requested by council, yes.
Yeah, and all of the,
Yeah, no.
if I could, real quick. Yeah, all the comments were put into this new resolution, which was great. The only question that I have is, what happens as far as the city property? I don't know if that's terribly clear in this
Well-
ordinance.
This ordinance only says we're not going to plant any.
Well, we also have the control of existing growth as well.
If it's going on anybody else's property.
Correct. And
So
I don't
I
know,
think most of our property is,
probably contiguous
yeah.
in specific areas,
Is the
but I
question-
don't know that.
The question is whether it would apply to public property.
Correct.
I think that it would. There's no exemption for it, and in that case, it would, same rules would apply. You know, contain it, don't let it bleed onto an adjoining property owner. But this also calls for a neighboring property owner to initiate the complaint. It's not just I spy, it's you got to have a relationship to the property. And that was to kind of narrow the, like, this being used as kind of ammo and different kinds of disputes, because that could lend itself to that. So this was to narrow the field of that. But yes, it would cover public property too. I have one point of clarification just to add, and the last part of this regarding the violations and what happens violation. I think the last thing we discussed on this was council wanted to revise the, I'll call them self-help provisions, similar to the sidewalk authority that we have. If you see something that the city can actually be proactive and fix a sidewalk. Similarly, there was draft language in here before that was taken out that would allow the city to abate the violation. We've taken that out in this draft, but I want to, there's still penalties here, and it would involve a notice, and the notice would say to the property owner, we need you to correct or abate this within a reasonable time period, and if you don't, then the next step would go to 390-9B. And I would change this language a little bit just to be clear, because there is some language left over at the end of that paragraph which seems to hint at self-help. So the last sentence in that, the imposition and collection of fine or other penalty for violation of any of the provisions of this article shall not constitute any bar to the right of the city to collect the cost as certified for the removal or abatement in the manner herein authorized. Well, we got rid of that with that change, so my suggestion would be to clarify that and just get rid of that. And then reword B, and it would basically say the same thing, but just to be clear, adding language at the beginning to say, if the owner fails to comply with such notice under subsection A above it, and within the time specified therein for removal or abatement, the city may direct issuance of a summons based on a violation of this chapter. And then violations of this chapter shall be further subject to the general penalty provisions of Chapter 1, Article 3 of the City Code. That's not changing, that's already in there. And then, comma, which includes the provisions under Section 1-21 that each and every day in which a violation continues to exist will constitute a separate violation. Just, that's not changing anything either, that's already in our code, but it just kind of points out that that is in play if somebody ignores this. So sorry that was a little long-winded, but I just wanted to be clear that we're cleaning up some of the language in there that seemed to hint at self-help, and it looked like council wanted to get rid of that in this revised draft.
Yeah,
Correct.
You hit a lot of the things I wanted to say, so thank you.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions or comments on this? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call,
I would
please.
just, Mayor, just to confirm, council
Oh.
to make a motion to adopt
amend.
those amendments as I just described.
Okay,
Oh.
do,
I'll make
Thought
that
that's what that was. Okay. So you're motioning to amend with that wording?
Yes.
I have a
Or
motion.
to introduce with that wording, if council's okay with that?
We can introduce, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to amend as recommended.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay,
Okay. Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
Yes.
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Mayor Mullick?
yes.
So if that was just to amend, would you like to introduce as amended, council?
Do I have a motion to introduce as amended?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Roll call?
Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
Yes.
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Mayor Mellick?
Yes.
Okay. All right, next we have some ordinances for second reading and consideration for adoption. We have 477-2022, an ordinance amending Chapter 310 of the Code of the City of Cape May regarding licensing to include insurance requirements pursuant to Senate Bill S. 1368. And there is a public hearing tonight, Mayor.
Would anyone like to speak on the ordinance 477? Sir?
Ten New York Avenue. I think this is a great move for the city to push forward. It's another protection item, a safety item that ensures the residents that they're representing their properties as they should be, and for the visitors to be protected that they come to town. And I would further suggest that maybe this would be a good time, if this ordinance is adopted, that there be some form of notice sent to the property owners in the city, informing them not only of this new regulation, but also the changes that have occurred with the mercantile license. Those two items are significant changes, and if I might suggest, if that's of consideration, that the owners be given a year of notice that 2023 will be their last year before violations are put into effect. That was done, frankly, in Florida, where they gave all those people who were not getting the proper licenses, they gave them a year to catch up, and if they did, there was no fine. However, if they were delinquent the following year, they were penalized. So I would encourage you to do that, and at the same time, think about the cost to administer, frankly, the city and Erin and her group that evaluates these. They're going to have to read these insurance forms to make sure where they fit and are they being properly cared for. It's going to take some time and effort, and I guess there has to be a fee associated with that added somewhere into the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roush. Any other questions or comments? I'm sorry, any other public comment on this ordinance? Seeing none, we can close public comment. Do I have a motion?
Can I ask a question? Oh,
You want to make a motion?
yeah, I'll make a motion to introduce this.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Yeah, to adopt this, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. Meyer.
Mr. Solicitor, is that something, Mr. Roush's recommendation, is that something we could put into the notice section? Or would that be too much to add at this point in time? To provide notice and a 1 year, opportunity to be compliant.
I think that that's something that could be done independent of the ordinance. Certainly, you could include it, but what I would suggest, if that's the direction council wants to go in, if you like the look of this ordinance and it's an issue of kind of getting the word out, I think that can be done on the administrative side. So council could give direction if you'd like to see that happen.
I'd like to see a notice go out, that's all. I mean,
Well, that's verbal resolution.
Okay.
Yes.
if I get everybody else's support, we can always, ask our management to do that for us.
I think it could be pretty easily put in our mercantile license packet, right?
And I think that was,
Hey,
Right, hello?
that was the plan.
Okay.
Unless council has, other ideas, obviously, we're all ears, we're open to whatever you guys want to do. We send out cover letters attached to mercantile renewals every year, every March, with updated information. Last year, it was updated with a complete copy of the MTRAC ordinance and the new regulations. And so this year, I intended to have a blurb about this insurance requirement in that cover page as
Yeah.
well. It is the responsibility of the property owner to provide us this insurance. It's not our responsibility to go out and seek it of them. But we obviously want to make everybody aware that the state has passed this bill.
Right.
Yeah, that's point.
We also, push things on social media. We announce it at city council meetings. So the idea of doing a citywide mailing, questionable to me, but we do send it out to every single mercantile holder.
Okay.
That's up to council.
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure if you were suggesting that we give them another year to get the insurance in place.
I think there's a requirement of enforcement, or
Well, that's
it's a
what I'm-
requirement on
what
a
I'm
state
suggesting
level.
is that
Like, this goes into effect on the
state's not
state
going to
level.
give anybody a year to do
No.
this.
No.
The state's
Yeah.
going to say,
No.
you better have it
It's in effect now.
Yeah, we were kind of giving them flexibility by waiting till mercantile season.
And the state, like, at the very last minute, amended the state law to say, well, we're just going to leave it to the towns, which really kind of leaves it to you how you want to enact this. And the most logical seemed to put it in with the renewals and let people know. People can I see the idea of like, well, everybody has different renewal dates for their insurance, so
yes.
getting it earlier, but, maybe a phone call to their carrier. Realistically, this type of coverage for people that are renting their properties is kind of right where it should be,
It's pretty
from
minimal.
my perspective.
Pretty
Yeah,
standard.
that's right.
Pretty
It's
minimal.
pretty standard.
So, and I see this as really kind of part of the application or reapplication process, providing a declarations page to the city clerk's office, which becomes part of the mercantile license file.
Right, right. And I truly don't anticipate us having to delve too deep into the certificates that we receive. Again, it's the responsibility of the homeowner to provide us with the certificates as per that bill, and we'll make that very clear to them. And if there is an issue, then that can be dealt with at that time. Of course, we'll review them, but the idea of being, hey, it's mercantile renewal, don't forget your insurance certificates too.
We close public comment, but Mr. Crowley, I have no problem with it.
Okay, thanks. Just a quick comment. If you go back to that chart I had up there, you remember the 62%, which we had a big question mark on. The way to solve that is to send a letter to everybody who owns a piece of property in Cape May. Not just everybody who has a mercantile license, but everybody who has a property. That way you will be informing both the 34 and the 62 at the same time. And in that letter, you can not only indicate that if you're going to rent your property, you need a mercantile license, and now you need a insurance certification as well. So a letter which goes out with the tax bill,
Right.
or separately, it doesn't really matter how it goes out. The fact is, when the year starts, everybody who has a piece of property in Cape May has got to have a letter in their hands that explains to them. And the issue is, you can bring Shane's issue too. You got a year to comply, whatever you want to do with that letter. But the point is, the letter is your safeguard that everybody now knows what's going on.
Can we task M-Track for what you would think that, I mean, obviously, we would have
Yeah, sure.
state law in
Yeah,
there,
I will. Yeah,
okay? And then obviously, council will approve that prior to the letter going out.
we'll draft it up for you and have it as soon as you can. Well, we have a meeting on Thursday, so we'll talk about it then.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I do want to state, I think this is for businesses as well, not just rentals. It's every business, so every mercantile holder in the city will have to provide us with insurance.
All right. Just because I did allow Mr. Crowley, does anyone else wish to speak on this ordinance? No, we will again close it to public comment. We have where are we at? I'm sorry. We have a motion and a second.
If there's any other.
Any other questions? Roll call?
Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
Yes.
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Mayor Mullick?
Yes.
Next is ordinance 478-2022, an ordinance amending section 7 of the City of Cape May Code to establish a maximum speed limit of 20 miles an hour on municipal roads in the City of Cape May.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Questions, comments?
Do we have a public?
There is a public hearing
I'm sorry,
tonight,
public
Mayor.
hearing. Open up for public hearing, this 478, this is the ordinance on maximum speed limit of 20 miles an hour on municipal roads. Any public comment? Ma'am?
If you could be sure to please state your name and address for the record, thank you.
Hi, I'm Holly Tilford, 231 Cape Hart Lane. I'm also the chair of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Safety Committee, and we are definitely in support of this ordinance. We really thank council for taking the initiative to support increasing safety in Cape May, both for pedestrians and drivers and cyclists altogether. This is really a push that kind of comes from New Jersey Department of Transportation. They've done a lot of studies about how much safer slower speeds are for everyone. It really just makes the town much safer as far as fatalities, which we've seen in neighboring towns over the last couple weeks, just sends the message that Cape May is really safety focused first, and that it really puts our visitors and our citizens, at the forefront of what we're really trying to take care of. I definitely understand that it may take a couple minutes longer to get through town, but I'm a parent of young children who bike and walk through town, and if that couple minutes saves anybody's life, of a child or a senior, or anyone vulnerable that's using the roadways, I think that is a choice that the council can make. So again, we support it, I support it, and I thank you for taking it up.
Thank you, Holly. Any other comments from the public? Jim?
Good evening. I'm Jim Moffett, 681 New England Road. I've been on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee since its inception 6 years ago, and we have talked about this lowering the speed limit in Cape May for the years, and Holly is our chairman, and we're very much in favor because our priority is safety, and we see lowering the speed limit as a key ingredient in improving the safety of our citizens, our visitors, our drivers, our bicyclists, our pedestrians, everybody who's using the streets. They're using it more than ever now. We have golf carts. It's not the same as it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago for sure. And it's just growing, crowding the streets. I see people saying, well, geez, it's going to slow me down. I'm going to be late for work, et cetera. We're not talking about dropping the speed limit on the New Jersey Turnpike or the Garden State Parkway. We're talking about blocks in town here. Yeah, you might lose 30 seconds going across town. You might lose 2 minutes going across town. But you could be saving lives out there. And we've had fatalities in the last couple of years here of pedestrians and bicyclists. And if we can save one life by dropping the speed limit 5 miles an hour on our city streets, it needs to be worth it. I think you may have seen these statistics before, but there was a study done based on 2017 data by the National Transportation Safety Board, and that if a human being is hit by an automobile, and the automobile is going 20 miles an hour, there's a 5% fatality rate. If the automobile is going 30 miles an hour, that jumps to 45%, from 5% to 45%. If it's going 40 miles an hour, it's 85%. So we're looking, studies have already been done. If you're going slower and somebody gets hit, whether it be a bicyclist or a pedestrian, their chances of surviving, the slower the car is going, the higher the rate is. And I think the last point I'd like to make is we're Cape May. We're not a fast lane town, or we don't advertise ourselves to be a fast lane town. We'd like people, residents, and particularly our visitors, come enjoy Cape May, enjoy everything that we have here. Slow yourselves down. You may only be here for a day, you may only be here for a week, you may be here for a summer or year-round, but slowing down is not going to hurt anything, and I think it's going to be a saving grace for not having people of all ages killed by an automobile. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Any other comments from the public? Ma'am.
Mary Snyder, 1343 Pennsylvania Avenue. I too am a member of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Safety, and I do support the decrease of the speed. I'm also a retired trauma nurse, so I do get this, but my friend Deacon, where's he at? I'm still not done with the enforcement side of it, though, because I do think, as Stacy had mentioned, the deputy mayor mentioned, I do think that still has to be resolved, or we could sit here next year coming back saying we need to decrease the speed limit even less. And that's just, we have to have some kind of a balance. We need to work with the chief to make sure that that happens. I have been doing a lot more research myself now. I've only been to one meeting, so I've been doing some research myself about this just to make sure that we're covering all grants, but I do support it.
Thank you, Mary. Any other public comment?
Hope Gaines, 1148 Washington Street. I live on Washington Street, and I wasn't prepared to speak, so I just wanted to reinforce this question, first of all, about enforcement. And when drivers hit Washington Street on their way out, usually, but sometimes on their way in, they go, oh, straightaway, wide street, and up they go. And it's clear to us, when our front yards, that they are not complying with the speed limit, even when it was 25. So I have a question about enforcement as well. How will that be done? And
Well, you mean in reference to the 20 miles an hour?
yeah, in reference to enforcing that lower speed limit, and particularly on streets where it's really tempting to just,
Right.
blow out of town.
Well, the truth is, it'll be enforced the same way it's being enforced today. I mean, now, we've heard it from multiple folks that they'd like to see more enforcement, and we understand that. Frankly, I think everyone up here agrees with that. And frankly, if I may, if you're coming into town now, you see a big blinking light that gives you your speed. There's one on Washington Street that's a movable one, and we are planning on purchasing several more. But yeah, enforcement definitely is an issue. I think, understandably, what we're trying to do as a legislative body, of course, is what we can, which we hope to see, and I think is frankly backed up by the statistics, that, hey, if you're 20 miles an hour, somebody who's speeding may be going 25, maybe going 30, okay? But if it was 25, maybe they're going 30, 35. I mean, and that's statistically accurate. People typically go about the speed limit or above it if they go above it. So we are just simply trying to slow people down. I do not want to make any indication that this is enforcement, because it's not.
I think the more of those blinking signs will help a lot, because that does draw your attention to it.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about this in the neighborhood for a while, and so I'm delighted to hear it. I'm delighted
That's
to go
happening.
tell my neighbors. Thank you.
That's happening. And I think just to add to it too, right now, someone who's going 30 down Washington is going pretty quick in some of those areas where the trees are coming in. Right now, they're 5 miles an hour over the speed limit. When it's 20, they're going 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. So, I think, I don't want to give away any police officer secrets here, but if someone's going 5 miles an hour over the speed limit, they may not pull them over. If they're going 10, then we're starting to talk about enforcement. Right. I agree. Thank you. Any other public comment?
Can I make a comment based on?
Should we, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Mrs. Gaines' comment, and maybe this is a question maybe the chief could answer, but, going out of town on Washington Street, people do start speeding up. I totally understand what you're saying, but when we put our speed sign there that blinks on that street, we usually put it closer to Madison Avenue area as people going into town. So the question I have is, are we able to put that apparatus on the left side of the road going out of town and still read people coming from the opposite direction? You understand what I'm trying to say?
I'll be quick because I know everyone wants to get through, but I can't be quick when I talk about this subject. So to answer your question, Councilman, The sign can be rotated. Lieutenant Walker and Lieutenant Mazza, myself, but we can rotate it in the same position it's in. We can just spin it. And
Okay.
It's spun once. It's spun every 3 weeks. So it's been one way in there, and we put it there at Madison, closer to Madison, because that's where we see the speed increase. I would like to purchase another one. We have one for Cape May City, and we have another one for West Cape May, but that's theirs. The fixed signs that the county puts up, we could ask for more of those from Mr. Church. They are pretty expensive, and I don't think that we should have to pay for those on county roads. Washington Street, some of the streets that are ours, expensive. But again, I don't put a price tag on a life, so I don't care how much they cost. Purchase them. Allow Director Przinski to purchase more of them.
And
That's
we
the
are,
sign I want to see.
and we do have wanting to budget to the sign ones, not the ones that are basically permanent, you know?
Yes.
Like, not necessarily the size of the one coming into town, because that's pretty big, but they do make a smaller one.
And since this came up, and it's been for a few weeks, few months, I do attend the Bike and Pedestrian Committee meetings. They've invited me several times. I get a lot of comment from them and direction, sometimes a scolding, which that's what you pay me to do. So I understand that, because they're very, very adamant about their passion of bike riding in the city of Cape May. And like it's been said here, the city has changed, where when I grew up here, I could ride a bike down Lafayette Street and really just fear the bread truck and the mail truck. It wasn't as busy. So some of the things that I've read, and I've received several letters, have been forwarded me from the mayor and from council and the manager, and direct phone calls to me like, Chief, what are you doing? Why are you lowering the speed? And everything else. But as you see here, many of those people aren't here, but it's a stronger step to lower the speed than it is to keep it where it was. Initially, when this project came forth, Captain Bobick, myself, we received complaints from Anita Van Heeswick out in the Point and some other people in town that the speed and the golf carts were driving up Sunset Boulevard. And Chief, how are you going to address that? So I directed him to call Bob Church. Mr. Church, where can we find a line, or is there some type of allowance on county roads to allow golf carts, the new and upcoming thing in town, to drive on roads that are 30 and 35 miles an hour? Because if you know, Sunset Boulevard goes from 25 to 35 to 40. So that was the original thing. And Mr. Church said, listen, your city has to adopt ordinances and bring them down and ask for those permissions to do so. A golf cart traveling on a road that's 30 or 35 or 40 is illegal. It can't go over 25 miles an hour. It should be on a road that's 25. So to say the Depot Campground can't have its golf carts come out and quickly cross over and get onto a back road, they all travel on Broadway. And then the other problem, the Village Green family, they all have golf carts, or most of them have golf carts, and they want to travel out to get to Pittsburgh Avenue, get to Texas Avenue, to get to the Wawa. So our initial police department request was 25 miles through the city. With Mr. Yeager, we went back and forth, and he gratefully gave us a study that I was able to actually put my eyes on, and we mulled over it, and it's correct that lowering the speed limit by that 5 mile an hour does save lives. So I'm in the business of saving lives, so I might get kicked and say, oh, we're mad because you slowed my day down. Again, my sentiment is this: slow down and smell the salt air. Enforcement. I want to touch on enforcement while I'm here and while I have the floor. I think the misconception that we don't enforce the speed is the biggest thing that bothers me. And I don't let things bother me so much, but when it's directed towards what my officers don't do and what they're not paid to do, absolutely enforcement is an everyday thing in this town. We enforce the 25 now. What you're not seeing, and people, some of the letters I read is, I ride my bike around Cape May City and I don't see a car pulled over. That's wrong. That's absolutely wrong. And some of those things there, we enforce. I do the monthly statistics. You can't make 134 car stops a month without enforcing something. Now, do we always write for speeding? And some of the people in the letters that wrote to me here were, if you write a couple speeders and it's been said at this table, they'll get the message. Well, when we're in a transient community, getting the message is, that changes every flip of a bed every Saturday when the hotel room changes. So I do agree that enforcement needs to enhance. But once I start enforcing something and start giving tickets out, if you want me to give tickets out, I'll do that. But I think word of the mouth, stopping cars, because we do stop a lot of cars for speeding. That's clearly here. We may give a ticket for a seatbelt or another violation found therein. I think that's how we're a kindler and gentler town. But once I start giving tickets for speeding, if that's what the public wants, and I understand that, some of you are going to get tagged in that because we're all speeding. Okay, so what I would implore you allow me to do is a direct enforcement commitment and campaign where we're stopping these cars. If you're going to lower the speed limit to 20, if you're going to leave it at 25, I implore you to move it to 25 in the entire city. If you go lower than that, that's fine. But 25 is where I'd like to see it. We will enforce it, but it's going to take a few months for us to enforce it and get the word out. There was one letter that said for the next 3 months, enforce it. You all received that letter from a local member of the community and kind of telling to give statistics and do all this thing. So one of the things council did do for me last year was approve my capital request for InfoCop and e-ticketing. So e-ticketing will now allow me, which rolls out January 1 of 2023, allow me to actually offer a physical ticket for a warning. So the person will get a ticket and a warning for speeding. If you're speeding in our town, this town, West Cape May, Cape May Point, you will receive a ticket. That ticket now will trigger in the software a warning. So the next time that person is stopped, it'll show up. You were just stopped last week for speeding. Today's your day, you get a ticket. So we are going to run that campaign through the entire, now until the entire summer, and until the people get the message that it's out there. And that way, when you ask me for a report and say, hey, chief, how many cars were stopped for a ticket for speeding, I can now give you that data, even if it's a warning, and in the system. And Joe Walker, Lieutenant Walker, can pull that data, drop it on a piece of paper for us, and give it to us. If you allow me to do that, I think I can better enhance the enforcement side of it. But to say that we don't enforce it, I will have to disagree to some of the people that say I don't enforce it, because we absolutely do. Everyone in this town drives around. There's not one time you don't see a car pulled over in this town by one of your officers that you pay. I can guarantee that. On the way into work this morning, Seashore Road, I saw a car stop for speeding. It happens. So if there's some direction that you can give me, I'll take it. But please continue to let me have the officers enforce the way they're doing it. I can't tell them to write more tickets. That's illegal. I can't say you must write this, and I can take their discretion away where they stop someone for speeding and they are allowed to drop it down to, oh, you know what, you didn't have your seatbelt on, or you're something other violation there, because the speeding ticket equates to a higher insurance fine, which I do agree. If someone's speeding egregiously, our guys aren't going to look the other way. They're not. And that little leeway of 5 miles here and there, we'll do our best. 20 miles an hour does slow things down, and I know there'll be questions.
Chief, I know you had done, and people have come to me because you put your numbers out there.
I do.
So I think when the numbers go out and a certain number, and that comes down to less than, 3 stops a day in a 24-hour, in the month of August or July, that's where I think people are thinking that it's not enforcement. When you're only stopping, I think it was in July, I think there was 117, was it? So roughly, 3 stops a day in 24 hours. That's where I think people are saying it's not getting enforced.
Right, and I don't have a traffic unit, so per se, when those calls come to you, what I need you to do is to direct them back to the other things that your officers do. Of the 12 arrests that were made in the month of, just September alone, September 12, aggravated assault, shoplifting, disorderly conduct, criminal mischief, on top of all of the rescue calls we go to per day, all of the suspicious persons we go to a day, the alarm calls, 243 property checks, and then someone even made the comment about how come we write so many parking tickets. I have 6 people writing parking tickets right now. I think they're phenomenal numbers compared to the 12 to 13 that we stepped up our game on the short end where we didn't have staff, and the 922 that were written last month, and then the 2,100 written this month. We're not here to make revenue for the city. I will never, ever tell my guys to write a ticket. What you're asking me is, oh, there's only 134 stops a day. That equates to 3 car stops a day. I run 3 towns. Okay, and I have rescue calls in each one of them. I have backup to other municipalities. We have property checks that the officers must do. They are now required to walk. We're back in school to walk through the schools every day. So they're here at the station. They're doing it. I think they're doing a phenomenal job with stopping cars. If you want me to increase the amount of car stops, I'll ask for that to be done through the patrol division. But I can't make up stops.
But you just said, though, too, is your West Cape May Point, and Cape May, and you only did that many stops.
Yeah, I think that's a good number.
So it's not even, how many were in Cape May? It might even be that only made 1 car stop a day.
I can guarantee it's not, but how many stops is a good enough number for you?
I think I just want to do
500?
I just want to make sure we're enforcing it, right? Because when you did that study on New Jersey Avenue, and you were stopping cars were speeding, most of them were, you said, were people going to work, and that were speeding. So we know
And what
from your
we
study.
found from that study that there were not as many speeders as people on the porches thought, respectfully to those families that would sit on the porch. That car's flying by. Am I correct, Lieutenant? So we did several studies through this last year of 21 and 22, pardon me. Elmira Street was the only place that I found vehicles that were speeding. Elmira Street, from Westgate Bay and going.
Okay,
the other
so
way.
just let me, we got another comment real quick.
Yeah, so this is an article I would like to read for you, Chief. It's in the Star and Wave, and it's actually, there's improvements suggested by the cottagers. And Mr. Harris also said that the Cottagers Association would like the city to enforce its traffic regulations more strictly in order to avoid accidents. There are a number of bad intersections in various parts of Cape May, people driving recklessly, too fast, and there are bound to be more accidents. That was July 1st, 1948. So I think it's been and I'm pretty sure that I've read over the years that there have been many others. I think there's a common theme. It's not an issue that's easily addressed. I understand.
I absolutely agree, and like I said, if the number of car stops is the question of.
I wonder if when he wrote that, there was a pickup truck on the promenade that day.
Yeah, that guy was given a ticket too, today. So, and Deputy Mayor, I don't mean to be rude or think that I'm arguing. I agree with you there, but I see that number of 134 car stops in the month of September. I don't break them down for city, for Cape May, West Cape May, Cape May Point, because it's the Cape May Police Department. I work for all three municipalities. So we have broken them down separately, but it's just, the number is there. The 134, if it equates to 9 stops a car a day, and then another day there's only 1, well, then there was less traffic infractions for us to pull people over. I don't put a number and say, guys, you got to make 50 car stops a day. That's all we would do all day is car stops. We are doing
Well,
community
I don't know,
policing.
I think what people want is, and I hear from a lot of people on Lafayette Street, that the signs out there, they can tell how fast the car's going because it's lighting up the sign
Yeah.
and it's speeding. And it's not even, it's New Jersey Transit.
Yeah, I don't.
You know, I
disagree
mean,
that
we're
they
not
are.
talking just citizens, we're talking, so that's where, and you say, well, when we're out there, they stop speeding. Great, I'm not looking to stop cars, I'm just looking to enforce what we have. If people want to slow down when they see a cop, that's better for us. that they're slowing
That's
down.
where we are enforcing the laws and we are enforcing speeders. And New Jersey Transit, they've been contacted. I have emails back and forth with them about telling their drivers to slow down. My good friend, Mr. Al Trombino, calls me all the time and says, Chief, they're speeding. Call New Jersey Transit again. And I call them and I'm like, Al, it's a big bus. It sounds like it's speeding. And then, we sit out there. It's hard to run radar on certain streets in town, so the speed signs do help. But like I said, we are enforcing, we're doing a lot of other things in the day that doesn't allow us to make 300 car stops a day. And we are also equal to other municipalities of our similar size. I pulled the numbers for speeding tickets in Avalon, Stone Harbor, Sea Isle, Wildwood, you know what I mean? And
What about
we're
Wildwood
equal.
Crest?
And the number in the Crest, they have straightaways, okay? They have a
But
lot
they,
of-
but they really, people know not to speed coming into
If
North
that's-
Wildwood
Listen, if that's what
and
you want,
Wildwood Crest.
everybody that goes over 25 miles an hour or 20, I will tag them. And we're going to get the complaints going the other way. I think stopping them, enforcing them, and instructing them that the speed has been lowered is where we need to go.
Okay, we still have some public comment
Yeah.
open, and I would, if you want to speak individually,
problem.
we can do that. Any other public comment? Mary?
I just want to say, I want to make sure that everybody understands that I think that the police department is up against a lot of issues. Obviously, we know in the entire country that there's a problem with, police shortages, et cetera. So this is certainly not a bash on the police department. I think we need to work on this together. One of the things will definitely help is the metrics and that new software program, because everything you read about even the bicycle safety stuff, it talks about metrics. The trauma programs always talk about metrics. You need to look at that. And not only that, we need to look at the metrics, because at the end of the day, are our programs and our education working? If they're not, then we need to regroup. So, I just want to put that kudos out to him. I think personally myself, when I say enforcement, I think it's a culmination of a lot of things, not just the pedestrians or the bikers. It's the dogs. It's dogs in shops. It seems like it's just a little bit of everything, and maybe that's where we're kind of getting caught up in that enforcement thing. So I just wanted to say that to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Mary. Any other public comment? Okay, we'll close public comment. Council, any questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a couple of comments. Council received some correspondence from some people that were not in favor of this, and they felt that enforcement was the answer, not lowering the speed limit, was one area. And the other one was that, well, we need to get the bicycles and pedestrians and everybody else, let's work with them, let's get them under control first before we do this. And I need to underscore again, and I hope that it started out this way, everybody should understand that the reason for 20 miles an hour is all about harming people. It's all about reducing the potential for deaths when a collision occurs, and they are going to occur. And that's the number one issue. The 20 miles an hour is absolutely where we need to be to get there. And we don't even have the data on how many collisions are avoided altogether because people are driving 20 miles an hour. That's got to be significant as well. So again, this has nothing to do with anything else. And enforcement, the chief is going to do everything he can for 20, as well as, at those streets that are 25. I know that. I think, look, I think more than half the people, data that I've seen, between 45 and 55% of people drive the posted speed limit. And I don't know who those people are, but I'm pretty sure that it's a fact. And we're talking about that, 25 or 45 to 55% say in this town will be driving at a speed where we're going to drastically reduce any injuries that would occur from a collision. So again, that's the purpose of it. Plainly and simply, we're trying to keep people from harm, and from there we'll move on to enforcement. And we've got hopefully we'll have other things that we can be doing with bicycles and pedestrians down the road. But for now, I think this is a very good thing for the people of Cape May and for the visitors to Cape May. So,
Thank you. Any other comments?
Could I?
Please.
Just because this council also approved to make sure that all of the sharrows and the crosswalks, that's another part of all of this. Those weren't really that visible. They're going to be visible. We're looking at safety, and we're looking at it, throughout the entire city. If we save one life, I think, this is definitely worth it. So I am, yeah. And the graphic one there, and what Jim Moffitt stated, when you start to look at the statistics, that's when it really becomes real.
yeah, Jim, I don't know if you knew it, but
It's in
the solicitor included the data that you were talking about in the ordinance, which was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. This is, just so you all know, this has been a pretty hard decision for me. I haven't received so many emails on one subject in a while, and let's face it, this is a big deal. It's a big change, and I think it's definitely worth a try. And it's been said before, and it needs to be said again and again. If we can save one life, that's all that matters. And I'm very thankful that the chief of police came up here and spoke some of what his side's like, give us a little better understanding what these officers go through and what they do for us to be safer. I think this is worth a shot, worth a try. I think it's only going to make Cape May a safer place. So it's been a hard decision for me, but I will support this, and let's give it a shot. The one thing I have as a comment, I received an email. There's some little roads in Cape May that if I were to say out loud, that it would take a couple minutes or a cell phone to find where it is. And somebody recommended Pearl Street That's a street that goes into Page Street. They were thinking that should be a 15-mile-an-hour thing, too. I don't want to delay this by asking the city council to amend this and table it, but if we could have another ordinance for introduction at our next council meeting to include that, that way it's not forgotten,
Pearl
and
should have
we
been
can
on
move
it.
forward.
I agree with that, yeah. Okay.
I just want
Agreed.
to make some comments. You know, I strongly believe that we keep the speed limit at 25 and we enforce 25. Everybody should know when they come into Cape May, have a sign up that said 25 strictly enforced and go from there. Now you're going to have streets that are 20, 15, 25. No one's going to know the speed limit on a certain street. It's going to be confusing. Where if you make a standard speed limit throughout town, then everybody knows what it is. You're not going to have, sign pollution and in order to force these speed limits, you're going to have to post so many speed limit signs around so that people know what the speed is. Now they want to do Hughes Street and Corgi Street down to 15 miles per hour. We have, right now, you don't need a sign on these streets because it's known that they're 25 because that's the state law. Now you're going to have to put probably 2 signs up on Hughes Street to say it's 15 miles per hour. And I think this is, again, if we just stick to one speed limit in town and make it that way, we can be more consistent and enforce what we have. The most important thing, people save a life. Yes, let's enforce what we have and let's make it clear that it's 25.
Thank you. Just real quick, I just say this as a reminder. The county roads obviously are not affected by this ordinance. And I just state for everyone who doesn't know, the easy way to think of it, the county road kind of draws a circle around the whole town. So when you come in the town, of course, you come into Lafayette, then say you went down around the little loop in Texas Avenue, down to Pittsburgh, Beach Avenue, and then Broadway, back to Lafayette Street. That's a big circle of the county roads, plus Madison. Madison kind of makes like a little line. Yeah, Madison, yeah. So Madison kind of like makes the line right through the circle. So in any event, all of those will stay at 25 miles an hour. So when you kind of think of that, when you're going through town, those are your main roads. And I actually, when I was looking at this again, even over the last few days, if you took all the state streets out, for example, Village Green, and kept them at 25, okay, that's about half of the roads actually in Cape May is in that area. But when I think about that, I say it's all residential, and it's not typically used as your throughway or byway to get where you're going. So I heard from multiple people on the state streets, they want it at 20. So hey, I think that's completely fine. Then you get onto the other side of Madison, and you're basically in the historic district, a lot of smaller streets, a lot of pedestrian and bicycle traffic. And if you start trying to pull streets out of there, maybe you look at Columbia. Columbia is a pretty wide street, but everything else, when you look at it, you're looking at Congress. I mean, I'm not going to name all the streets, but you're looking at very small streets for the most part. And frankly, I think most of the time you're not going 25 on those streets either. So I really think this is worth a try. And I think this is an ordinance that could be updated at a later date. If we feel and we get a lot of public comment, which obviously we would welcome, if the public seems to think that this was a bad idea, well, let us know, and we'll analyze this situation. But as was said multiple times, if this saves a life or saves someone from an injury, look, that's why we're up here as city council members. We want to make our town as safe as possible. So that's why I support this. And frankly, I support the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee, who have been working on this for some time. With that, I think, any other comments? Okay, roll call.
Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
No?
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Mayor Mullick?
Yes.
And next, Mayor, we have the public portion on the resolutions only at this time.
Anyone here tonight to speak on the resolutions this evening? No one on trick-or-treat timing? No? Okay.
Any resolutions wanting to be pulled from the consent agenda, Council? There's only 3 of them.
I would like to just pull 243, just to acknowledge.
Okay.
Okay,
All set?
all set.
No raisins for Halloween? No, don't-
All right, so on the consent agenda, we've got 242-10-2022, a resolution regarding trick-or-treat night in the city of Cape May, and 244-10-2022, resolution for the payment of bills.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
And I will just make one comment, just that, and I don't want to steal your thunder for later,
you're
but
good.
trick-or-treating is 5 to 8 p.m. on Monday, the 31st, on Halloween, so 5 to 8 p.m. Roll call?
Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
Yes.
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Mayor Mullick?
Yes.
And we've got 243-10-2022, a resolution authorizing the city to award a contract to state contract vendor, General Recreation, Inc., for outdoor shower units for the Public Works Department in the amount not to exceed $69,900.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Any questions, comments?
I just want to point out, this is for the outdoor showers, as just mentioned. I think it's going to be a great addition to the front there. So, kudos to the Public Works Department, all the work they've been doing around town.
I echo those sentiments, Eric. That was really, this is 18 new showers, so I think by the end of the project, we'll have every beach done over the winter for foot wash shower stations. So that'll be a really great improvement. There's actually a lot of beaches that don't have one, so this is a really nice improvement. Any other questions? Okay. Roll call?
Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
Yes.
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Mayor Mullick?
Yes.
Any old business, council?
I just have old business. Last year, I think we approved a resolution that says in September, I think October, that we are to look at our finances on what interest rates we're getting at banks. I think we should go out and do. Is that me? I'm sorry.
That's all right.
People don't know my schedule. And I actually thought I put it on silent, too. I'm sorry about that.
All right.
That we should go out, and I don't know if it's called a bid or what, to find out what's the best interest rate. We're losing a lot of money by not getting the best interest rate for the money that we're putting in there. We have millions of dollars, and they should be getting that best interest that we can get.
They did just increase it, but I don't disagree with you. We
Yeah.
can manually shop it to different, which we had done last year, or you can, I think, put it out to bid.
Well, I think we should actually do a formal, because I don't think it's fair to have somebody just go up to them and say, hey, what are you going to give us to the city? I think it should be a formal bid on what they're giving for interest rates. And I think by doing it that way, we put them underneath the gun more to give us the best rate, and not just a friendly talk, okay, we'll give you, what, a half a point? Or, they went up, they still were less than, I think it was 0.05%, I think is what they did.
0.75.
What was it?
0.75, but yeah, it's low. But that's, it is a checking account, and most people, 0.75 is actually not too bad, but I agree with you. We could certainly either put this out to bid or solicit individual bids.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing is, frankly, you do want to work with someone local that people can do their checking with and all that.
Wasn't this a lot of what Neil talked about at the last council meeting, sweeping these accounts to higher rates?
Sweep accounts.
Sweep
That's a
accounts.
little
That's
different.
sweep
different,
accounts, okay.
Yeah, that's a little different, but he is starting to use sweep accounts. But that is a good comment in that using those sweep accounts, those are at higher interest rates that are really good. So that will definitely be a good increase to our interest.
Well, I think we should take a two-part process to this. Offer our local banks an opportunity to present something that's, acceptable to the city council, and if we don't think that's good, we'll put it out to bid. That way we can go reach larger banks, maybe outside this area. But, essentially, as, I think you were kind of hinting at that, Mayor, it's good for us to support local banks, because local banks support the community as well. But,
Understood.
It's also supporting the citizens on what we're getting interest.
So,
right, I was just saying as a two-part
Yeah.
process.
Yep.
See what we can do. If we're not happy with it,
but we're supposed to do it, so you're right, we'll have the CFO come in and maybe present us with some options of what we can do.
Well, I think it's in, and I haven't read it lately, but the resolution or ordinance, I'm not sure what it is, that we're required to go out, or, it's up to the, I'm not sure if we're required, or if it's, I can't remember what the wording was that we
Okay.
settled on.
Okay. Well, whatever it is, we'll do it.
Can indicate what it is. The ordinance amendment says at the first work session or regular meeting occurring in September of each year, City Council will review all interest-bearing accounts with the CFO and city manager. So that's in council's duties, I think.
Okay.
I just don't think we're doing our due diligence unless we are getting the best interest for the city. And I mean, the sweep, like you said, the sweep accounts are a start, and we have to
Because
make sure we're
those are-
diversifying our accounts.
Those are at like 2%, the sweep accounts.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there are several banks, you're right, there are several banks local. I mean, even TD isn't not that far away if we had to do something, but in town here, got a few options.
Yeah.
We should talk to them.
All right.
And then my second old business has to do with, and I had talked to the city manager about this, when I go through the bills, I see we're not buying local. And we really got to stick to buying local. This is printing materials that we're getting printed. These are simple items that aren't underneath a deadline that we can do with our local businesses. As a community, we should be supporting our own town's businesses.
Good. I agree. Okay. Any other old business? All right. City solicitor, anything else?
Nothing further tonight, Mayor, thank you.
City manager?
Just quickly, I just want to, as your city manager, my responsibility is public safety in this community. And I want to assure the public that it's intact. The police department does a great job. They were brought up tonight. I listen to them. I talk with the chief every day. They make a lot of stops. They do a lot of medical assist. They got alarms going off all the time. So we don't have the luxury to have just a highway division or traffic division that just patrols around every day looking to write tickets. We don't have the luxury. We have so many people. But, lifeguards did a great job. I mentioned that earlier. They kept people safe this summer. Our firefighters and EMTs every day working with the police, keep this community safe. And then tonight, listening to the council, what you did tonight, and the recommendations from our Bike Safety Committee, it just makes our community. I just want to compliment the chief and the officers and all our public safety community, because we are really, we're not Mayberry, but we are surely a safe community. And I commend all of them for keeping us safe, so that you go to bed every night, you know that you have people out there protecting you. The fire inspections, they talk about that. Those fire inspectors are out there every day, and God forbid we haven't had a major fire in this community for years. And that's all because it all comes together. And I just can't say anything more about how much I want to compliment them keeping us safe. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. City clerk?
Yes, just to highlight some election deadlines that are coming up. If anybody's interested in registering to vote, that deadline is October 18th, whether you're doing that in person or whether by mail, it needs to be postmarked by the 18th. Absentee ballots, looks like you'd have to request one by November 1st. You have to return it by November 8th, which is Election Day, or have it be postmarked by Election Day as well. So if anybody has any questions about registering to vote or how people are voting or anything like that, just give a call to my office and I'll help you out. Okay?
Aaron, I have a quick question. Is there early voting?
There is. I don't think we have any in the city. I believe last year the closest was in Lower. I haven't received any information on that yet, but when I do, I will absolutely make that available. I believe early voting starts, according to this, October 29th through November 6th, but I haven't received any firm information on that from the county yet.
Okay.
But I'll make that available once I have it, for sure.
Okay. Council members, Councilmember Baldwin?
I just have one thing. We looked at two enforcement issues, and enforcement seems to be the topic of the night, so I want to bring this back up again. We looked at residential mercantile licenses, invasive species. But we also have other enforcement issues that we need to be cognizant of, in the city, and how are we going to look at enforcing them? I would like to possibly sit down with the city manager, and as we're, the budget is going to be started, we need to look at, okay, where are we going with the budget? Do we need to add additional enforcement officers on? How, what are the needs? What are the concerns? I would love to be charged with that if the council was okay with that, to meet with the manager and start to investigate that a little bit more, if everybody's okay with that.
Sure.
It's been an issue over and over again, and I think that we really need to look at it and look at all of the areas of the city.
Great.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you. Thanks, Mike.
Councilmember Meyer?
Thanks, Mayor. Over the years, being, as a liaison of the Shade Tree Commission, I just, I start appreciating trees more and more at Cape May. As I mentioned, the trees that are in front of the elementary school, if you never stopped and actually looked at them, they're pretty cool. I'm very proud of that commission for all the work they've done making Cape May a greener place. As I mentioned before, we have that 50-50 program. We're trying to do our best as a commission to put the information out there that this is an available process that you can participate in. And then finally, when it comes to the Franklin Street School, at our last meeting, there was supposed to be a member of the county coming here to talk about removing the tree in front of the Franklin Street School, and I'm pretty sure that the committee is, dead against that. And I shared that with the city manager to help, to relay that to them. If anything, they'll trim it up as they do the work for the bricks and whatnot. But I think that that tree is significant to the entire project.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer.
Oh, sorry, my microphone was off. I hope everybody heard me.
And Deputy Mayor?
I have nothing at this time.
Mr. Yeager? Councilman Yeager?
Yeah, I'd just like to update everybody. The Police Station Task Force had its last meeting on September 22nd. We're moving right along. We're working with Robbie Conley, the architect, and one of the things that was decided right away at that meeting was that, first of all, the HPC is going to be brought in very early in the early design stages to be sure that we're doing something that makes sense to them and looking right in the community. Another interesting point that was decided on there was that we're looking to try to move the parking lot just a little bit in order to provide a little community plaza space right outside the police station on the park side. So they can have little social gatherings there, for the neighbors and for anybody that might want to use that space. And we got through a 33-page needs analysis with the police chief and his staff and everybody there. It was pretty intensive, and so that architects have gone back with that, and we'll look forward to the next meeting and seeing what the next steps are going to be. So we're moving along, just to let everybody know.
That's great. Me. Okay, so real quick, library ribbon cutting for the starting is on October 10th at 10 a.m. October 10th at 10 a.m. We just got that this morning from the county. And then we have, just a reminder for Nixle, most of the people in this room probably have signed up for it, but when you hear all the flood sirens and things like that, if you're signed up for Nixle, you'll get a notification. So that's just a quick call out to sign up for that. Our OEM director's with us this evening too. So, and I know they were hard at work getting ready for this storm, so I appreciate that. We have a little 3-on-3 basketball tournament coming up on, what is that? That's the 15th. Thank you. October 15th at 10 a.m. Anyone wants to lace up? We have different age divisions. We have a cleanup at Fisherman's Memorial, and that was actually moved because of the rain, but that's now Saturday the 22nd at 8:30 at the Fisherman's Memorial. So that'll be a nice little event. Saturday, October 22nd at 8:30 little cleanup, community cleanup. With that, oh, and actually, movies in the park, they're starting back up. Casey and the staff doing a nice job. Movies in the park, again, starting at Rotary Park. I know they at least have one on October 28th for Halloween, so that should be kind of fun. October 28th at 7 p.m., but I think they're going to have a couple more, actually, so it should be a fun event. With that, we'll open up to public comment. Charlotte?
Good evening, Council. Charlotte Todd, 1308 Cape May Avenue, Cape May, New Jersey. I'm a member of the Environmental Commission. Actually, it's historian. And tonight I'm very pleased to announce to all of you that for the second year in a row, our Environmental Commission has won another award. It's a state award by the State Environmental Commissions Association Achievement. We applied for this in August, and I'd like to go into a few of the details. The information came in so recently, I couldn't believe it, because it is the second year in a row. Last year it was for plastics. This year it has to do with Ocean Fest, a marvelous new activity in town. So this is essentially what was said in our correspondence and our narrative for our grant to ANJAC. And some of you may not know what ANJAC is. Well, it's the Association of Environmental Commissions in the state of New Jersey, and they have been functioning for nearly 50 years with over 500 communities involved. So it's a very highly regarded group. The Environmental Commission of the City of Cape May was first notified by a brand new Ocean Festival proposal during our January Environmental Commission meeting, January 2022. Gretchen Whitman, New Jersey Audubon's Nature Center Director, City of Cape May, started to explain to all of us the ideas for this festival. She proposed that the city's Environmental Commission might be sponsors both financially for $1,000 and would also direct ocean education activities at this event itself, thus enhancing our commitment of stewardship for the City of Cape May and the Atlantic Ocean. The event was to be held June 11th, 2022, which is very close to World Ocean Day, which is when the planet now celebrates all oceans. It's an amazing event. There was an affirmative response from the Environmental Commission, and our budget had built in enough funds for the educational purposes. Cape May City's master plan and the conservation element created in 2019 specifically recognizes the Nature Center of Cape May, New Jersey Audubon, conservation partnership with the city. Their goals are in part to encourage educational experiences which emphasize the stewardship of both Cape May Harbor and the Atlantic Ocean. We on the Commission as stakeholders and stewards fully recognize the tremendous opportunity that we could bring parents and children together at an Ocean Fest. Moreover, our city's Environmental Commission has stayed apprised of New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection's climate change scientific reports, and also ANJAC's repeated information given to us that we should keep our ocean clean. Specifically, ANJAC's issue of June 30th, 2020 informed us that New Jersey's warming faster than the rest of the Northeast region. The article stated that as temperatures rise, causing unprecedented heating, intense droughts and floods will also be on the rise. Even more serious offerings are that Ocean acidification results in dead zones in the ocean and can create historic loss of commercially important fish and shellfish. Obviously, Cape May City is an exceptionally beautiful seaside town, and our concern gathered from scientific data presented by ANJAC about protecting our boundaries are taken exceedingly seriously by our mayor and our council, our environmental commission, and our green team. Thus, the first Ocean Fest became an amazing educational opportunity for our community and is to become an annual event. The Environmental Commission is and was overjoyed to be a partner in the Ocean Fest. Furthermore, I'd like to just add to this that the science on climate change is settled fundamentally. We hear it from everyone, including Woods Hole Marine Science Center and MIT Marine. They offer us much documented and very interesting information about how the Earth has warmed since 1971. And basically, we know, as a seaside community, we are all in the same boat. We just need to be sailing or rowing in the same direction. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you so very much. That's a great award too, and thank you all of the Environmental Commission for your hard work over the years. We really appreciate it. Gretchen.
Gretchen Whitman, 704 St. James Place, and my second home, 1600 Delaware Avenue at the Nature Center at Cape May. Just to follow up on that, we were given that award basically because the Environmental Commission nominated, and it is the Nonprofit Environmental Achievement Award. So the award's being designated to the Nature Center, but really it takes a village. And I said all along as we were planning this festival, it's not our festival. It was not a Nature Center event. It was really a community event. We had support from the city, from the Environmental Commission, and also West Cape May Environmental Commission, and many nonprofit groups that came. So we're happy that over the, just the first year to be recognized. We estimate maybe about 400 to 500 people came to that event. But I also want to point out that we just had another event, Monarch Festival, which for a few years now has been 400 or 500 people. This year we estimate that we had 1,000 people. Wow. And it was incredible. So, we're doing some really wonderful things down there on the harbor at the Nature Center with, I like to call them these mini festivals. They're self-contained, they're on our property. I know with the Ocean Fest, there was buzz out there that it was Harbor Fest, an old event that the city used to have. That's another thing that I kept on saying to people, it's not Harbor Fest, it's not a street festival. But, we're excited to keep these events going. So thank you to Charlotte and the rest of the commission who actually wrote up the application for this recognition. The other thing that I wanted to point out is based on Eric's presentation about the good work that the Public Works has been doing, and specifically the work done at the Nature Center at Cape May. Our education hall, if we really go back 30 years, it was 1992 when the city first started working on that building. About a dozen years ago, New Jersey Audubon got grants to improve the education hall because we had almost 20 years of wear and tear on that building. So we put in, over the last dozen years, maybe about $120,000 that maybe the city doesn't even know about because they're small grants. We did that building piecemeal, basically. We got a $9,000 grant that allowed us to improve the bathrooms. We got a $50,000 grant that allowed us to do the roof. And so we really, in those last dozen years, improved the shell of the building, new siding, new windows, new doors, a new roof, a new heating and cooling system, new insulation, and we ended up with a really tight, energy-efficient building. But we kind of ran out of money, and we ran out of finding the grant source to do the inside. So you were right. We had plywood floors because our carpet was so bad that we ripped up the old carpet and we painted the floors. So we were looking on how to make those improvements that we knew it was going on 25 years of wear and tear. And lo and behold, the city kind of came to us because they were interested in partnering with us to utilize the building. It is the city's building. You are the landlords, we are the tenant, and we kind of put our heads together and we were able to make those improvements, or the city was able to make those improvements, and worked with us to make sure that it was done before our summer camp season, before we were really busy, and they did an excellent job, and I want to thank the Public Works for what they did. Specifically, I'd like to point out Carpenter, Steve Bosna, did a very thorough job, attention to detail, and really, really kind of took ownership, and we ended up with a wonderful project that is now being used by the city for their We Play programs, and we hope to continue to work with the city. So I'm going to just throw this out there. We still now have the deck to do, and the deck is 30 years old. The deck, we got a $9,000 grant, I think it was $9,000, last year, and we did improvements. We had to fix boards and wobbly stairs and all that. It is on our capital improvement budget for New Jersey Audubon. We're looking for the money. It's a big deck. And if we do it right, this might be a $40,000 project or so. So I'm just putting it out there that I think together we can get wonderful things done. So if we're looking for grants and the city's looking for grants, maybe we can figure this out, because that deck needs to be replaced within the next couple of years. So again, thank you, Eric, for everything that was done by Public Works, and thank you to the city.
Thank you, Gretchen, and thank you for all those programs that you put on throughout the whole summer. It's awesome. Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, motion to adjourn? Okay, have a wonderful evening, everybody. Time is 8:17.